it was a great night. Obviously, in the end, the right team won for Britain.
I think the right team won for the sport.
Well, I think they were the best. They were probably the. Well, there wasn't much between the two teams, really, were there? I was going to say they were probably the best team on the night.
They were the best team defensively on the night. The thing about Penrith that was quite frightening was that when they got it right, they didn't have to click into gear quickly.
Yeah, they played quick through the middle when they played well.
And they had a young kid, Jack Cole, at standoff that was only playing his second game. So clearly, again, he played as well as you would have expected him to play. But he wasn't Jerome Luai, and it's all instinctive. Stephen Crichton clearly has moved on now. You get the feeling, and nobody will ever know, if he'd have got the opportunity that May got when he broke clear. Crichton has a history of scoring those kind of tries. So, yeah, they're going through a little period of adjustment as well. But the dignity they showed, the way Wigan hosted it, which was exceptional. I mean, the fan zone beforehand, absolutely packed out. The pre-match entertainment, brilliant. The atmosphere around the ground. Sometimes when you get a big crowd in, even for a big game, like 5 minutes of absolute furore in and it goes flat a little bit. None of that. The atmosphere was great throughout. And people who were clearly neutral were there as well. It wasn't 24,000 Wigan fans and 100 from Penrith that came on a corporate trip. There were lots of people there that were there for rugby league rather than because they were Wigan fans.
If you're just joining us on YouTube, you've not missed anything, but we've spoken all about Wigan and Penrith, and now we're not going to speak about it anymore. No, we haven't, because we haven't spoken about the big moment of the game, the most controversial moment of all time in the history of the world. Jake Wardle, he got the ball down. I think he got the ball down. I think the tip of the ball touched the line, and it must have done because Liam Moore saw it, because that's why he sent it up as a try. This is the problem with the video referee system, James, and we've been having this discussion on this programme. I think, when did it come in?
It's been in quite a while now. I'm not
so
sure.
Probably for the whole 10 years of this programme. It's a rubbish system, James. The system is at fault.
Well, I don't know. There is no perfect system.
Well, that's true.
There were 3 tries in the game that all came back to the live call. There was one in the first half that no one's talking about, which was the Penrith try, which, to all intents and purposes, he must have grounded the ball, but you can't. There is no angle. Having looked at all the angles as we saw, there's no angle that shows it, and therefore the video referee has to go back to the live call. The same happens with the Wigan try, the Wardle try. I actually, for what it's worth, I think he does ground the ball on the line, but...
Yeah. Well, you would say that, James, because you're defending your mate. I'm just
and
speaking.
I mean,
and you're
true,
English.
True.
Yeah.
But no, I don't. I'll just give you my opinion as to what I think. I think, in the same way that other people think he doesn't score, I think he does score. And the reality is, neither side of that argument can ever win, because nobody can see on an angle that the ball is or is not. And that ultimately what you come back to. You come back to the live call. I think where it falls down a little bit is that the last decision is that goes up as a live decision, no try. And again, the video referee tries to find an angle, cannot find an angle, and therefore he has to come back. There's insufficient evidence to overturn the live decision, and he has to come back to that live decision. So one can only imagine that Liam Moore had the best view, and in his opinion, he hadn't scored. And that's ultimately why the live call exists. Having said that, if we didn't have the live call system, I think each of those 3 tries would be awarded as tries, because the laws talk about benefit of doubt to the attack, and that's the old system we had. So where there is no live call to take into account, the video referee would revert back to that. But there were plenty of controversial moments with that decision. People would say, well, he didn't score, or he did score, and you're just using that as a bit of a cop-out. So you'll never win.
The live call is what you would get if we didn't have a video referee. So all the people
Correct.
saying, it's a disgrace, we shouldn't have a video referee and it shouldn't be referred to, like, okay, well, Liam Moore would have called that as a no try.
Yeah, in the same way that French's try would have been given as a try without the video referee. Because
what a try that was.
That went up as
Or
live.
wasn't, because it's not in the paper, so it didn't happen.
So is that now the best non-try of the week? Because I'm sure there was one last year that they said was the best non-try, and then...
But they've burnt a player there, haven't they? Burnt a player that, that, I wonder if that comes back. And they reuse that one.
But how brave to pull a play like that when you're at that stage of a match that clearly is going to go to the last minute, to have the presence of mind to say, we're going to chip over from the scrum.
I mean, having said that scrum, that field position came from what I believed was an error by the by Liam.
Was that the ball strip?
He gave a knock on, and it wasn't a knock on in my opinion. So that's one as a referee, you breathe a sigh of relief.
Liam, we know you're watching, so there you go. You were wrong.
You know, but and the ball steal decision was wrong because the international law, as we'd said in commentary, the international law applied, and so the drop off.
And they did drop off.
They did drop off. So had that been on Thursday night, Friday night, or Sunday afternoon in this country, then that's illegal. But we only had that the NRL rule in for one season, and then we ditched it.
So as Phil points out here, why do we have 3 sets of rules? Well, it's because the Australians, isn't it? It's not it.
Yeah, we've changed ourselves, and it ultimately comes back to the IRL doesn't have the teeth that it in an ideal world should have, and the NRL has the money and has the wherewithal to just do as they please.
The argument is that each competition is allowed to adopt local rules that suit the conditions of that competition. What it's meant is we've got 3 different sets of rules. Who's going to be brave enough to call the parties round the table and say, we're going with yours, or we're going a hybrid? I don't know. But
you'd have to get the NRL to commit to it. Because the Super League would
probably
the
interesting
commit,
thing, and no doubt we may talk about high tackles, we may not.
I've got to talk about Wakefield Hunslet ARLFC to come.
And there was only one high tackle in the World Club Challenge. Wow. One high tackle penalised in the World Club Challenge.
And what a physical game it was, by the way.
And intense throughout. And the ball in play. I mean, I don't know what the stat is of that, but I'd be very surprised if it's not 65% of the time the ball was in play. Or probably more, 70% maybe.
No one who stumbled across BBC Two on Saturday evening, because they wouldn't have stumbled across Sky Sports, they would have stumbled on BBC Two, maybe expecting some opera or something. Some opera. There's always
Antiques Roadshow.
Antiques Roadshow, opera, all the things you get on BBC Two. And there's some Northern Oiks and some Australian Oiks playing rugby there. They would not have been failed to be impressed by the atmosphere, the speed, the intensity, the violence and everything.
It will be interesting, going back to the head high thing. What rules will Australia adopt? Because they, as the contact sport, will still be under the same auspices that we are, to make sure that it looks like we're doing something.
So when the World Cup comes around in 2026, in wherever the World Cup's going to be played,
Southern Hemisphere,
somewhere in the Southern Hemisphere, what rules will?
We don't know what our rules will be by then, because they've already been tweaked this week. So,
Gav says it should be the NFL style. Gav, you're going to upset Rowan Smith because he doesn't like all this. Have a screen at pitch side and let the referee make the choice with more information than his live call. It's just gone forever.
Well,
I guess it goes on forever now with the video.
Look, I think there's an argument on that for me, all decision making should ideally be made by the on-field official. But if you are a referee trying to view a screen in that corner in that last minute, the screen is in the far diagonal corner from Wigan, so you're 120 plus metres away.
They have another monitor.
So you'd have to then go, as they do in football, to a pitch side monitor. So you then got 25,000 people.
Make sure it's a big pitch side monitor, not a little one that you can't tell what's going on.
I don't know. In an ideal world, yes, they would have a role.
On that last try, that monitor wouldn't have told you anything.
It wouldn't have told him anything different. So all it would do, it would still bring you back to his live decision, which his live decision was no tries. He would come back no try. In rugby union, I saw a try in the France-Italy game.
A try in rugby union? Surely not.
Well, I didn't think it was a try. I thought it was a knock-on in the build-up. But anyway, so it went to the video referee, but the way in which they sent it up, I think, in his opinion, it was a try, and then they had to find a reason to overturn it, and I think they have to have conclusive evidence. But the referee has a role in that decision, so he stands and looks at the big screen, but in his opinion, he couldn't see a knock-on. So
I think we went to just enough looks at the last incident for it not to kill the atmosphere dead in the stadium any longer, any more angles. That holding of breath by all the Wigan fans and the watching television fans would have dissipated, and there'd have been boos and why are we waiting?
Turning over to casualty.
All the other. It was a wonderful occasion. Penrith were incredibly dignified, as we said earlier. They did not look at any of the incidents in Ivan Cleary's. His post-match was nearly 20 minutes. He was asked a couple of times, he could have ventured the fact that they thought they'd been hard done to. He just talked about what a wonderful occasion it was, how glad he was that they'd come over and been part of it. He even asked, like everybody's going to do in the, particularly after this weekend, would you have it in Vegas? He said, you know what, we've had such a fabulous time here and the atmosphere's been so good. This is where it should be. He just the other thing, which means very little but says a lot, is that when Penrith's players and staff came out of the dressing room, you know the configuration at Wigan, it's like then a U-turn to get to the bus, and the mix zone for the media is where that U-turn is. Every single one of the players and staff said thank you to the media. We hadn't even interviewed them, but they were so polite. Then you walk into the area where they're getting on the bus and some of the corporate people are waiting for things to be signed or to have pictures taken. Every single one of them stopped. Every one of them said, thank you very much. They were flying out early the next morning. They were so imbued with the occasion and so respectful of it that it, again, you left there thinking, this rugby league one day might catch on.
Yeah, well, that's what makes you, pleased to be involved in the sport, doesn't it?
It was fantastic.
Why do we ask Nathan Cleary if he wants to come and play in Super League, despite the fact we know the answer? And I know I did this with Jonathan Thurston, however many years ago it was. But we don't ask Ivan Cleary, do you want to come and coach in Super League? Do you want to take over at Huddersfield in a couple of weeks? Fancy it. Gav says...
Controversial.
Well, I just picked that out of thin air.
Threw that in there.
Just picked Huddersfield out of thin air. I could have said St Helens. I'll say St Helens. But I spoke to Paul Wellens last week, he's my mate now. So. At what point do we start talking, says Gav, about European Rugby League and Australian Rugby League in the same way we talk about League and Union? Well, it's been that...
It's like we said earlier, which possibly wasn't on YouTube. One of the questions asked of Ivan Cleary was, is the gap narrowing between Super League and the NRL? Because for the last 2 years, a Super League team has won a World Club Challenge in the most thrilling and spectacular way. And the answer is no, we are no closer. But the teams at the top could hold their own against an NRL team in a one-off game. I don't know if they could do it every week at that intensity, because we're not tested at that intensity. The problem we've got is that until everybody spends the salary cap and we have more people playing the sport over here, so we get first choice of athletes, then the gap between the 3 or 4 at the top who can put on a display like that and the rest is huge. And it's no different to 1997 when we played in a World Club Championship and Australian teams won virtually every game. We had clubs like Wigan that went over to Canterbury and won, which was fantastic.
Sometimes Penrith won all their games and didn't qualify for the quarter-finals.
But nothing has changed until we get a raising of the standard here, which is partly around the ability to every club to spend the minimum salary cap. We can't match teams in the NRL that spend 3 or 4 times as much and have a choice of so many people that play the game.
Yeah, and the IMG plan, as I understand it, is to go to 14 teams in the Super League, isn't it? But that's a counter to that argument, isn't it? That actually, if you reduce the number of teams in Super League to get that intensity by having a smaller pool of Super League players of say 8 teams instead of 12 or 14, then surely you would get a higher level of intensity week in, week out.
And
how do you then get generated fixtures as a different
you'd play
challenge?
less games, which would again increase the intensity. So
The
answer is no, we haven't closed the gap, but our top teams are very, very good.
Well, there must be a magic warehouse full of rugby league players that are going to be put into this Super League America competition, which the Australians are stupid enough to think can happen, despite the fact that Major League Rugby is obviously a massive...
Well, the other big story
failure
in the lead up to the World Club was the NRL are going to buy Super League.
Yeah, that as well, yeah. We're going to move back to winter. No, we're not.
And I did manage to ask the highest ranking official in the RFL. I congratulated him on selling the game to the NRL, and he said, it'd be nice if somebody talked to me about it. Had a lot of meetings with them recently, but I thought somebody might have mentioned it if
I buy Super League, do I just get a load of balls and post protectors? And where did Wigan get them posts from? We're going to have to twist these things around. Look, you can't. I don't know if you can see them on YouTube.
Oh, that was
they were brilliant.
That was outstanding. There's definitely an IMG point for having flashing posts.
We've seen those before, though. We've seen them. I think they've had them in their NRL. Oh, was it in
they had them in the
nines
tournament?
Yeah, nines. Yeah.
We didn't have them at Wakefield yesterday. It was very disappointing. No flashy posts. The floodlights came on and they stayed on, so that was good. But no flashy posts. I think I've covered everything. Ian did say, not Ian Boldsworth, who's just joined us, but Ian Waterhouse, did anything happen in the first 10 minutes of the podcast? You have to download it and find out.
We talked about the World Club Challenge. It was just bang on as well, I thought.
Gary says the Wigan try wasn't a try, he was short of the line. Gary the Viking, well done to you. You're in the next round of the Challenge Cup. Witness.
That's good result for them at Bradford.
Did anything else happen at Wigan that we need to talk about, apart from Heather Small, Russell Watson, fireworks, flashing posts, Wigan winning?
It was a wonderful night.
Pies all right? Pies all right?
Chicken balti pie.
Chicken balti pie.
So, yeah.
Pies, mint balls, and the world champions Wigan now. Matt Pate. I call him Matt because I checked this because I thought Matty sounds a bit
chummy.
And also I looked on their website before I interviewed him, and they call him Matt, so I'm calling him Matt.
I think he was emotionally and physically drained, which sometimes happens that you expect the
we're looking
winning
on
coach
Huddersfield this weekend now
to come in and be absolutely euphoric, and because they put so much into it and it's so emotionally draining, it's gone right to the last minute. The one thing he said that again I think deflects all arguments about disputed decisions is that he said that had that try been given in the last play, had Nathan Cleary kicked the goal, which he inevitably would because he's Nathan Cleary,
quite good,
he would have been just as proud of his players whether they'd won it or lost it because of the way that they played and the DNA that they've got and the covering for each other, and that's what they're all about. So in a way everybody won on Saturday night, which is why to see so many people on social media, particularly from Britain,
Penrith were robbed,
say it like, you know what?
Oh, no. Anyway, I mean, you can imagine the amount of work that's gone in behind the scenes for not just off field but on field and the coaching staff to prepare for that game. So absolutely. I think that the challenge is now knowing what happened with St Helens last year. What's the effect of that win?
The interesting thing is, I don't think it's the next game. So I think if you look
at
it historically, it's like you've still got a bit of adrenaline.
As he says, of us looking to see who they play this week.
They play Huddersfield this week.
It's the game after.
Yeah.
And interestingly, the game after is London away.
Oh, there you go. Did we discuss this last week?
We did. We looked at that actually. To be fair, but I think the fact that they've not travelled to Australia
absolutely
is a big factor.
And they've got a big squad.
Yeah.
Although Cruz Lehman being injured isn't great for them, but
they could have got Brad Dwyer on loan.
They could have done, but Lee got there first, which I think we exclusively reveal on here a couple of weeks ago that Brad Dwyer would be moving to.
I can't remember we had the conversation about Wigan's next fixtures last week, so
I don't think we do exclusives.
Never done exclusives. We had Rob Hicks on months before everyone else though. Robert Hicks. Sorry. But Matt Pete, what does he do now? He's done everything.
He's won everything inside 2 years.
Tremendous, yeah. And some of the stories that come out around his management style is really interesting.
I was told that he himself has a coach educator.
Yeah.
And he will go away for 2 or 3 days and turn his phone off completely just to be in that environment where he himself is recharging his batteries, getting some new ideas, talking with his mentor about some of the things that he thinks might be issues maybe within his realm of coaching. And he comes back completely refreshed with a different perspective or a slightly altered perspective. That's top level management. That's not sports management. That is, if that's a multinational corporation sending its high level executives to a camp together, that is top of the range stuff. So again, what he's doing and what Wigan are doing to support him is whether you're a Wigan fan or not, it's fantastic.
And the players clearly respect him.
Oh, absolutely.
So the other week, just speaking.
What about Tyler Dupree? Stat that came out. Played 11 games for Wigan, won 3 trophies, never been on the losing side.
Retire. Done.
Yeah. He can't get any better.
Leeds will have him.
Negotiate a new contract now.
It's sorted now. I said the other week, after speaking to him, I thought, I'd run through a bit walls for this man. I've only spoke to him for 5 minutes about stuff. Yeah.
And it's partly, again, because his background is not a traditional, I played at a very high level, I've gone into coaching. It was, I did an English degree. We talked about this before.
He did a proper degree.
It gives you, So things like poetry are an influence on him, and you just think, well, that cuts it from a slightly different cloth, and it's why he is able to have. I think that the word is perspective. I can't think of another word. He has a different view on life value. The other thing that came out, which you probably read in the run-up to the game, was that, incredibly sadly, Liam Marshall's mother died the week before. And Matty Peake just said, we're all going to the funeral. We're all going to dress in our Wigan regalia. We're going to respectfully just attend. We're not going to make a big deal that we're here. We're not going to tell people that we're here. We're just going to be there for our mate. And we're all going to be there. And they went. And you just think, when a club does that to that level of detail for a mate, then they're going to theoretically die for each other out on the pitch, aren't they? Which they did. Their defence was astonishing. And again, that's what Ivan Cleary focused on: Wigan's defence, not the deficiencies of any refereeing decision. And they had, Penrith, as we said in the first bit, which you have to listen to again on the podcast, Penrith had 2 gilt-edged chances that they themselves didn't take. And they would have won the game if they had.
Their last tackle options remind me of Leeds at the start of last year.
Well, they didn't do short kick-offs.
And they're the captain. They've got a captain now. I can't get over Leeds having a captain.